Hello all, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to talk about I INICET because yesterday I've told you that I would share my journey of I INICET. I have given I INICET in November and I've given myself 5.5 months for the preparation. But since there are 60 days left for the next May INICET 2026, here is how you can approach the exam to maximize your score and, get a seat assured. So there are few rules for I INICET. I INICET is a game of recall, revision, because it mainly repeats past year questions as well as topics, mainly topics. So when you focus on 5 to 10 years of past papers, it would be enough and sufficient. But what happens, and the biggest mistake we often make, is we fall for FOMO, we subscribe to multiple resources out there, and we try to gather information like it's the game of, who knows it all and who has the most information. It's not that. It's how much you can retain, how much you can recall, how much you can revise in the given time. And it's also an exam which tests your time management skill. So let's get started with the most essentials of assuring you a good rank in MAY INICET 2026. The first thing is sticking with one source and trusting your source. When I also started preparing, I heard so many people talk about this, and it is the golden advice out there, I would say. And there are many people who don't fall for this. They think that the many resources they have, the more chance they get. That is not true, because it's not about how much you know. It's not about the breadth of the information. It's about how well and accurate you can solve MCQs. It's basically an MCQ solving skill. It analyzes your clinical judgments and how you analyze each clinical scenarios and the clinical stems that they give in the exam. It's about that rather than how much you know. It's not like a subjective exam wherein you are asked to write 10 pages about a topic. You are asked specific questions, you're given options, and you have to choose that in the given stipulated time. So that is one thing. So stick with one resource and trust that resource. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. And stick with one resource. And by this time, I assume that you would have already chosen your resource, or you would have your notes already prepared. You would be someone who had given other exams like November INICET or even NEET 2025. So you would have something already in your hand to start preparation. This might not be this time where you start from scratch. This will be where you build over your base. So definitely stick with that resource and trust your source. It is very tempting to go to multiple sources because you think that anatomy is well explained in one source, pathology is well explained in another source, but that's not the whole idea. That's a trap actually. And if you fall for it, you fail even before you start. So I am highlighting that again, emphasizing that again. Trust your source and stick with your source. The next idea is to have a revision source. Now, what does that mean? When you have a source, for example, I have used Marrow RR for my main preparation, and for very specific and few topics which I felt are very, very important, and I have gotten lost of track, like for example neuroanatomy, some parts of toxicology and forensic. I've gone back to the main videos, but that was very specific, very minimal, because you can't spend a whole lot of time on the main long videos. So you'll stick to RR videos and you'll prepare notes out of it. Now, if you're someone like me, I use a mix of methods. I use pen and paper, I use digital notes, I make it in Notion, and I also use Anki flashcards. Now that works for me. You can choose whichever way you want to retain those information, because you're not going back to the RR videos again. Or if you have printed notes of Marrow, even that works. But when you're listening to the RR videos, you're making highlights of important points and you're not highlighting the whole page. Make sure you are trying to concise it, because your idea of first read or your idea of first revision is to make your second revision easier, and your second revision is to make your third revision easier. So it's about repeating and recalling and retaining the information as much as possible. So you're having a revision source, and that is your first goal. So the first step is to pick a source, listen to the lectures or videos or read the notes, and make your own notes. It can be digital notes, it can be screenshots, it can be anything, but you have something to go back and revise the topic from at the end of your first read. Okay. The next thing is your revision, and revise as many times as possible. That is the third step. You have to revise as many times as possible, because you're not going to read and read and read. You're going to revise, you're going to recall, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make a note of your mistakes so that you have enough information that gets retained in your brain. So when you make your notes and when you revise it the first time, for example, if you have anatomy, you would have roughly 20-30 pages to revise from. That I say if you have minimal amount of phones per page, it's not loaded with information. So you're trying to revise that, the long topics in a day, or maybe multiple topics per day, multiple subjects per day. And when you revise, you are trying to again concise the information. Okay, so you're sticking with the most important ones. You are pinning down to again the most important ones. So you're reading the information first, then rereading it so that you are retaining the vital informations. So when you have your second read, you are again having some mistakes and you are unable to recall certain information. For that, try keeping an image bank. That is something, for example, me being a mix of a visual and audio learner, I would suggest having some visual banks so that you can go back and, for example, if you forget brachial plexus, for example, you can have an image of brachial plexus so that it's the final thing that you're revising towards the end of when you are approaching your exam. So have an image bank, and also make sure you are keeping an error log. Okay, so first thing is you're choosing a source. Second thing is you're revising and you're keeping a revision note. Third thing is when you're revising, you're concising the information, you're keeping an image bank, or you're keeping also an error log. The final thing is definitely to keep track of your past papers, because INICET is not about having the newest and wildest information. It's all about keeping track of the previously asked questions, because there are certain important topics that they tend to repeat over time. So keep track of 5-year, 10-year papers. Also do GTs, and there is no specific time to start doing GT. You don't have to think that if I am starting today and there are 60 days left, you are going to start GT at the end of maybe 30 days. That is a very wrong thing you do. You have to start as early as possible, no matter if you have completed the whole subjects or not. Start early, keep track of your wrong answers, and keep an error log separately for your GTs. And that's how you improve your GT score and your past recall score. There's no other way to do it. So when you're doing GT, keep it in a timed fashion. You're sitting there for 3 hours as you simulate an exam hall, because you have to experience that stress and overwhelming situation sometimes, and you have to keep your nerves under control, because when you have it on the exam day, you have 45 seconds per questions, and that is a very nerve-wracking situation. So you have to get used to that as much as possible and as early as possible. So keep practicing doing questions, because MCQ solving is in itself a skill that you develop over time with practice. So when you're sitting for GT, what I would do is I would try to do it as quick as possible, so that I'm even cutting down the time, so that I would have in the real exam also, because we have 45-minute window per sections, I would have at least 15 or 10 minutes minimum to do the questions again, the ones I've bookmarked or the ones I've flagged in the first go. So the idea is to stick with the time, so practice accordingly and keep track of your GT scores and your error log. So when you're doing GT, the repeatedly mistaken question, again, if it is image based question, try to keep an image bank, or else keep a notebook separately as an error log, wherein you're keeping track of all your errors. And next time when you're doing a GT, all you can do is revise that image bank as well as this error log, and as well as you may have like the 20th notebook that everybody keeps on telling. So what your 20th notebook can be this image bank, which can be screenshots, which can be images, especially neuroanatomy and neurology especially. There are multiple images that tend to forget. So you can keep track of that, and you can keep track of all the vital information from all the 19 subjects into your 20th notebook, and then revise that only before your next GT. And that's how you can see a steady, it may be slow in beginning, but you can see a steady progress as you go along doing your GTs. So do your GTs early enough, do your past papers early enough. Don't wait for all the 19 subjects to start your revision, because revision is not something that you read the whole thing first and then reread. That is just repeating your reading. Revision is not about repeating or reading. It's about spaced repetition of your topics, so that the chance of retention in your brain of all the vital information is more possible, and that is happening. So these are the 4 key things that I would give out from this video. Stick with one source, have a revision source, keep your notes, and your idea is to have your first read, which makes it easier for your first revision and which makes it easier for your second revision. So each time you're concising your notes, you're making it slim and readable at the very end. And then do your GTs early on, focus on your past papers, and that is the MAY INICET game. It's all about the repeated questions. It's all about repeated topics. It's not about the one who holds the most information. It's about the one who retains the information and is able to reproduce that on the D-Day, on the day of exam. So keep practicing, keep going, and overall believe in yourself, trust your source, trust your gut, and do what works for you. Because everybody keeps on giving you different ideas and strategies and schedules that worked for them. And one more thing I would say, it's, you might get overwhelmed by people saying that I'm spending 10, 12 hours, maybe even 20 hours plus per day for MAY INICET preparation. Don't get overwhelmed with that. It's not about the quantity of time. It's all about the quality. Even if you are spending like, say, 4, 5, 6 hours per day, which is very focused, like you are spending 3 hours for reading, 3 hours for question practicing, maybe 1 to 2 hours for that revision and revisiting your wrong questions, that is enough. It's not about the time. It's about how much you can give in within the time that you're able to give, because everybody has different life circumstances. Everybody would be at different stages of life. Some may be working, some may be, dropped out to completely dedicate to this. So when you are putting something, you're putting your mind and heart to something, give it all and give it all you can, and you will definitely win if you know the real strategy and if you see the purpose and if you trust your process rather than following the trends and falling for the FOMO. So that's all. Thank you so much. If you need detailed breakdown of how to prepare in the next 60 days to come, comment down below and I shall try to put up a video next. Thank you so much. All the best for all the one who are preparing for MAY INICET 2026. Thank you.